Well, welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank Podcast. I'm here with Mr. Andrew Parker.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. How you doing?
You know, you have the best last name because it's named after my favorite Spider-Man, which we all know is the real Peter Parker, which is Tobey Maguire.
I actually, in high school, my gym teacher always called me Peter Parker.
Was it because you were nerdy, or was it for another reason?
Well, I mean, obviously, the last name Parker definitely was nerdy, skinny. I was very much a Peter Parker in high school, so.
But yeah, it's superpowers. Plus, you delivered pizza all day, so it's like win-win. Now, when we talk about what do you do professionally? Like, what do you either that or what are you're interested in?
Well, professionally, I work at a grocery store, so that's boring. But what I do, the reason why I'm here is I do a podcast. That's a full cast audio drama, and I mean that's my thing.
What's the name of this podcast?
It is called Crypta.
Crypta, like kryptonite, or are we talking about cryptids?
Like cryptids.
Well, before we go on to the cryptid talk, I do want to say you said grocery job is boring. I used to work at Walmart like 5-6 years ago. I hated that fucking place, but the one thing which is my guilty pleasure, if anybody out there knows, if you lose me in a grocery store, look for the candy aisle, because I don't know the satisfaction that I could ever receive besides squeezing a piece of candy inside of the wrapper. If you bought Reese's Pieces, if you bought anything, chips, any of that, if I was stocking that aisle from like March of like 2016 to like, I don't know, August or something of 2016, anything you got from that store, I completely fucked it up because I was just, dude, no better feeling than crushing one of them things in the wrapper. Just one. Oh my God.
Oh man, that's straight up chaotic evil. That's great. I love it. You know, they're excited. They got the candy bar. They open it up. It's all mushed.
You're gonna eat it anyway.
Like obviously a finger. That's true.
It's like eating a banana that you smush with your foot. You're gonna still devour that thing. I mean, peanut butter and chocolate's good if it's smushed or not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do say it's boring. It's not been boring lately. I'll say that.
Because of the COVID?
Yeah. It's been, I mean, it's calmed down quite a bit lately, but for a hot minute there, it was madness. I felt like an extra in like a pandemic movie, you know?
Yeah, my buddies that still work there were talking about like how they're getting like pandemic bonus and stuff, like adding $500 or something to their overall paycheck at the end of the week or something. I'm like, I get it because of how hard you guys have to work now, but like even dealing in restaurant businesses, grocery stores, anything, I'm like, it's got to be a pain in the fucking ass just because you got to do all this extra wipe down shit. You got to do stuff that you really weren't doing before. I mean, when I worked there, it was like you were supposed to take the old item and put it up front and put the new item in the back. I never did that shit. I was just stocking stuff up like crazy. I was like, I get the rules, but I also don't live my life by any rules besides don't live your life by any rules. Yeah.
No, yeah. It's been wild. It has been crazy. Everyone's on edge. Everyone like, where's the toilet paper? Why don't you have any toilet paper? Listen, lady.
I'm dealing with a freaking shit issue where like I just found out I have a spinal thing going on where it's causing me not to go to the bathroom or really need to go. So this was perfect timing with the pandemic. I'm trying to buy toilet paper to wipe my ass because I actually need it and everyone else is buying the shit out of it. I'm like, great. So now I have to use Clorox wipes. And for anybody out there, do not use a Clorox wipe to wipe your ass because it is not fun.
Yeah, it sounds like wiping your ass with icy hot.
Dude, that's a challenge if I've ever heard. When challenge accepted, people, you'll be seeing an Instagram live shortly. But when we talk about your podcast, though, like what exactly are we talking about when it comes to cryptids? Because I have a few listeners out here that are like, why don't we get some more cryptid talk on there? I'm like, what? Like, what do you want? I'm already talking to Bigfoot people. What other cryptids do you care about besides Mothman? I think that one's too popularized.
Well, we actually do feature more popular ones in the show. Basically, the idea is you've got the Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and the Mothman. And they've all been kidnapped by the U.S. government, and they like back in the 1950s, and they've been living in Area 51 for the past like 75 years, and they're about to be unleashed upon like human society after having been sequestered to Area 51 under the guise of a mad scientist who may or may not be a former German scientist.
What's his name?
I don't know if you've ever heard of Project Paperclip, but that's kind of the idea behind that.
Warner
character.
von Braun, are you telling me? Yeah, I trust me. I've dived heavily into the conspiracy side of things. Let me tell you, when you start looking at those conspiracies a little bit closely, they're not really conspiracies.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Well, when you're doing your podcast, like, what do you typically try and go off a story of? Like, are we talking about like I know there was an old TV show back in the day that was like it was a werewolf, a ghost, and a vampire living in the same apartment complex. Is that the same thing we're dealing with these cryptids? Like they're breaking out of a government facility. Are they like, hey, let's all bunk up and get drunk and hammered every night?
Definitely some of that. I think like the main theme of the show is like, we want to explore different facets of society through the eyes of these ignorant characters who are also like complete outsiders. So, we'll have like an episode where, they need to learn how money works. So, they go through a series of misadventures of like, one of them maybe gets themselves in debt and, maybe one gets rich and goes like crazy with power. So it's just kind of like this like fish out of water exploration of our society with all its warts and dark underbelly.
So who exactly plays which role, I guess, in your group? You're doing it with a co-host, so who's the voices of who?
So I'm the voice of the Bigfoot. My co-writer Brandon is the voice of the Mothman. Our good friend Ed Larson, if you may have listened to some of his podcasts. He does the show Brighter Side, and he used to be on the show Roundtable with Gentlemen, which was a pretty popular comedy podcast back in the day. He does our Loch Ness Monster. And Henry Zabrowski of Last Podcast on the Left, he's our Doc Stein.
Now, you got to give me a Bigfoot sound here. I'm already thinking, because I know what I think of Bigfoot in my mind as a protector of the forest. I think anybody that's ever listened to me talk about Bigfoot knows I hold him dear and close to my heart when it comes to Smokey the Bear is a piece of shit. I don't like him. I think he's like a America propaganda of what Bigfoot is really entitling, which is the keeper of the forest. Like if you set a forest fire, I picture Bigfoot coming out, stomping it out and being like, you want to fuck with my woods? My motherfucking woods?
No, yeah. I mean, you've got to protect the woods. And that Smokey guy, he's a real asshole. He's just a camera hog. That's all he wants is the fame, the fortune, the girls. I love the forest. I live there. I was unfortunately taken away, but that is my home. And if you fuck with the forest, you're fucking with me, pal. And I'll put a giant foot up your ass.
I like that. I like it. You give him. Does he have any like comedic value to the group? Like, who exactly is involved in the group now? I know you mentioned Bigfoot, but like, who else are we dealing with? Nessie's not involved because I mean, how hard would that be to transport Nessie unless you got her like in a bathtub or something?
Well, that's exactly how we do it. Ness is in a bathtub, so obviously has to stay wet all the time. But he's in a big bathtub with wheels on it, so he just kind of drags himself around. Mothman hovers, and Bigfoot plods around on his big old hobbit feet.
So it's just those three?
Yes, just those three for now. We plan to kind of bring in more cryptids in the future, but right now we're sticking with the three. It's kind of like the Freudian trio,
Have you ever
classic trope?
Who have you thought of that you would want to add to the group that wouldn't really mess up the flow? Because I mean, those are three distinct cryptids, mostly the popular ones. But like, if we talk about the other ones, like the New Jersey Devil, I don't feel like it would really pop too well into the group, just because you got Bigfoot, and you got Nessie, and then you got obviously Mothman. Like those are the popular ones, but they all have distinct things about them. But it seems like if I put them in a room together, they would have a few conflicts, but not too much involved. I feel like if you had the New Jersey Devil in, you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah. No, New Jersey Devil is definitely one we thought about incorporating. I think like we've got our core group and we plan to have like one-off characters, like they'll be around for a few episodes. Actually, I completely forgot that we had the Loveland Frogman in our first season. And he's just this like, this disgusting, annoying, like disgusting, gross frog creature, and he loves magic.
Yeah,
And he's very annoying with his magic. I don't know if you know any magicians, but they're usually pretty fucking annoying.
yeah, they're all for show, man. You know what it is. I hate it. I hate it when they show you something and then they want you to finish the trick, but they end up doing it for you, and it's just like I don't even feel like I was involved at all. Like this is some David Copperfield bullshit.
Yeah, I'm just a human prop here.
Yeah, exactly. You just want to get my chick and walk away.
Yeah.
Have you ever? Well, I would say, have you ever thought of an episode where Bigfoot loses his foot and has to get like a robotic foot? Like, how and then it was a dream? Dude.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if Bigfoot loses his feet, I think he'll be fine because the doc, he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve.
Now, is the doc, so we're talking about like kind of his inspiration is like a Nazi scientist type way where he's been experimenting on these things. Now, is he like overall still a friend in the group, or are these people just escaped from him and they really want to try and get away from him or try and hurt him?
He's like a friend in the group. He's just working under orders from the government, much like he did back in Germany. Yeah. So
that went.
Yeah, yeah, right. But yeah, he's just he's a benevolent character. He's kind of like a father figure to the characters. He kind of helps guide them because they're completely ignorant,
Yeah, I think this is like probably one of my favorite types of podcasts, or the audio kind of dramas a little bit. I really am like inspired, I guess, by voice acting. I had a shout out to my buddy Mark Philippe. He does the voice of what you would think Wolverine would sound like. I mean, amazing impressions. I'm trying to get him hooked up into some comic book podcasts, but it's the storytelling aspect of things. Like it's nice to slip into a fantasy. Dungeons and Dragons podcasters do it. I really like the cryptid side of things too, and even Michael LaRusso with Backwoods Radio. Like it's fun to be acting. It's fun to put on this persona. It's fun to disguise your voice in what really a lot of people don't realize is the amount of time and the amount of, first of all, work it comes into doing voice acting, because it's like a muscle. You got to flex that shit. I mean, as much as you possibly can. I mean, there's probably days where you're like sore throat or something and you're trying to do a Bigfoot impression, and either might add to the overall effect or might hurt it, depending on, if you smoked a cigarette or not.
Yeah. No, the Bigfoot voice is definitely brutal on my voice. I sometimes wish I had gone with like a different take on it, because like, when we record a season, we'll do it all like in a row, and then my voice will be shot for like 2 weeks. But it is so much fun. I love to do it. It's a labor of love. It is a lot of work because I do all the editing and stuff. So I take everyone's recordings and then I edit them together. I pick out which take is the funniest, which will jive the best together. I got to make it sound like they're all in the same room at the same time. And then I got to add music, sound effects, all that fun stuff. But it is definitely a labor of love. I grew up listening to like old time radio. So that was like a big inspiration for doing this. Is like I used to have hundreds of cassettes of just old radio detective shows and old horror shows like Suspense and Lights Out, and I would go to bed every night listening to that. And we had this idea in like high school, and I just was like, it got to a point because we wanted to get it animated, but that was so much. It cost so much money because we know to hire people that are better at that stuff than we are. And we tried that, and it was so expensive. And I was just like, screw it. Why don't we just do an audio drama, man?
Yeah, those commercials you see with Terminex where they're doing like the little quick cartoon sketch that's like 5 seconds long. That like 5-10 seconds in a 2D animation or in a storyboard thing is over like I think $4,000 or something like that. Like it's ridiculous amount of money, which really sucks. But I mean, I think it gives an avenue for a window for you to reach out to other people that are like aspiring artists and stuff. Like I've reached out to people on Instagram. just for talking to people with the podcast or something. And I'm like, hey, my buddy owns a food truck business. Shout out to Robert Dumont. He's out there like, I need to create stuff to get business drumming up in here. So I would like to get like a video made or something so I could promote my business. And I'd be like, hey, can you help this guy create a storyboard thing? Next thing you know, it takes a month or so, but they get a good couple seconds for an Instagram video. And I'm like, imagine if we had the resources to create the shit we wanted to create. It would be like Guardians of the Galaxy when Chris Pratt figures out he has powers. And he's like, you're going to be seeing some weird shit.
Yes. No, yeah, we're trying to get it animated. We've been pitching the show around to a bunch of networks lately, actually for the last like 2 or 3 years, but it's tough to get those big execs to be like, oh, you've done like nothing. You don't have any professional experience in animation. You just write and you want like $100,000. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. I really don't like that aspect of like, you have to have experience. You have to have something. Like I always looked at, like, if you gave me a job, like if I was an owner of a business and you gave me somebody's resume and I'm looking at like, oh, you went to Harvard, you got all these degrees under technical engineering. Oh, so you know a lot about this field. And they're like, yeah, you can give me the job. Or they have that confidence, or they have that, like, I'm your best bet here out of all the picks you got. I'm going to be like, let me think about it. And then somebody else comes into my office and says, man, I don't know shit, but let me tell you something. I'm willing to learn. And I love this craft. Somebody that's going to actually take the time to do research on their own and not just try and get by day to day. I'm like, I'm fucking hiring that guy, because that guy's actually going to put an effort to learn more about it and actually want to do it. I mean, we all start as beginners somewhere. So why the fuck wouldn't you give me a shot?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I look at like, if you're going to have any impressions or voices, you got to give me your list of impressions, or even anything that you could do for a disguising voice. I've heard Bigfoot. He's got like a little bit of a vibe to him, like a little bit like he probably smoked a pack of cigarettes and maybe would kill you after he banged you. But
well, I've done a couple monsters on Michael's podcast, Backwoods Radio Show, and that's kind of my favorite, because you could do like a insane like demon. Or you can do like a creepy freak out monster. Whoa, melting skin. And like, that's just, I don't know, that's where my mind goes. I'm a gross brained individual. So
well, it's fun doing those types of characters too. Like if you do like like I'm pretty good with like impressions and stuff. And then like when it comes to voices and stuff, I was just like, he's tossing me a list out of his show, and his show, is like no holds bar. Let's get to the weirdest, creepiest stuff ever. So there's a character, there's a character coming up, you guys that are listening to this now might actually be up already, but it's Rectum Randy, where he sells you the best of it's like a cooking show commercial, and he sells you the best of how to cook anything out of a rectum, and it's 100% grass-fed ass was his motto. But I used the voice of a person that I had on my podcast where I go, you gotta talk with the Baltimore twang, and that type of weird like cigarette kind of voice. And then like we look at I use like a Jim Brewer style impression when I'm doing another one that's coming up on his show. It's an alien that huffs paint all day. Like it's fun as shit just to be able to like slip out of your personality. I mean, I always do, like, I have a pretty good like a Don Corleone or like a Christopher Walken, but like I've actually been trying to turn this into a comedy bit, but it was like, imagine if your life could be narrated by something, like anything, what voice would it be? Because it couldn't be too mean or serious. You couldn't be brushing your teeth and be like, and then you brush the top part of your teeth, and then you brush the bottom ones, and then you get in near the back where the molars are. You couldn't do that, and then you couldn't have one that was so weird or annoying like a Jerry Seinfeld. Like imagine trying to make cereal in the morning, like you put the milk and then the milk, and then you're like, fuck, I couldn't do that. So then you look at like the inner thoughts you have in your head is actually the perfect voice to narrate your life, because it's what you're used to, and it's the one your body goes to, your mind goes to. It's just perfect fit.
Yeah. I think I'd go Morgan Freeman.
And
that's when Andy realized that second burrito was a gigantic mistake.
I like that one. I like I can only do Morgan Freeman if I'm doing him off the Family Guy version, where he's like, ever since I was a little boy, people have enjoyed the sound of my voice.
Yes, that's great. I'm not the best at impressions. I gotta like really like work on it, and usually I have to listen to it right before I do the impression. But that was spot on.
I like just doing like imagine if commercials were just with better just better voices. I mean, if you look at like my buddy G, he's got this voice that is like a movie theater voice, like coming in but it's so like natural. I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? I'm like, can you just narrate my life for me where like I feel like excitement throughout the day?
Yes, yeah.
Now, have you had any episodes coming up with like the Cryptid podcast where you're trying to focus on maybe a unique story or a way to tie things in? Because I know Michael's always telling me like, oh, that'll be season 6, that'll be season 7. I'm like, we're on fucking season 2. When is like how do you get us to that point where aliens come down?
Oh yeah, like we do have like an arc plan with characters. I don't want to reveal any of the tricks we have up our sleeves, but we are going to get very into conspiracy stuff and aliens, and yeah, like we have springboards because each season that we have planned is kind of going to be a like a theme. You know, like the upcoming season, I can divulge that it's going to be about them getting famous because the first season that we wrote, it's set in the 1950s when they were all captured and they all kind of meet each other. And so this season that's coming up is going to be set in present day and where the government's finally like, okay, we can admit to the public that they exist and we can supervise trips out into society. And so, of course, immediately, as soon as that happens, everyone goes fucking crazy for them. They get super duper famous immediately. So that's kind of the theme that this season explores.
And then, am I gonna guess that Bigfoot just opens up his own body spray, like Bigfoot's body spray, or Bigfoot's BO blocker? I mean, come on.
I mean, I think it could be possible that some of them will get some brand deals. Yes.
How hard is it for you to be able to craft out an episode? Like, you probably have to research a little bit about the cryptid and also what you guys are trying to focus on too. Like, if you're going to talk about a conspiracy theory, you might want to know what the fuck you're talking about too. Like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, well then Neil Armstrong or whatever, Lance Armstrong, they went to the moon. It's like, hold on, Lance Armstrong is a cyclist. How did he get to the moon?
Well, I mean, like, we were always interested in this stuff as kids growing up, so we know our shit pretty well, you know, as far as like the cryptids and stuff goes. Certain ones we're gonna have to do a little bit more research on. Like, I want to incorporate like the Majestic 12 and more alien type conspiracy stuff in it in the future, which I'm not as well versed in. So I'm gonna have to delve into that a bit. But as far as like the cryptids and stuff go, like, we know our cryptids pretty well. So not a ton of research has to go into it because we've done it for the past 30 years.
You thought about maybe doing the Roswell incident and then trying to instead of an alien coming out, maybe try cryptids or something, maybe try like a certain cryptid coming out of the thing. But like, you thought an alien crashed here? Psh, no. And then like he could have them putting out like a fake dummy body as like an alien body. Be like, I'm gonna leave this here so they think it's aliens.
Yeah, we blame it on the aliens.
Yeah,
that'd be good. That'd be good. I kind of like the idea too of like aliens trying to abduct the cryptids.
I feel like at one point, if Bigfoot was real, I feel like if aliens did come down here, they took him. Like, I just feel like he's not here anymore. I don't know. I've talked to so many people that believe, like, I think there's traces of this species still left. I'm like, I like Bigfoot a lot, but nobody ever talks about my favorite cryptid of all time, which is the Yeti. That thing is so much more badass than Bigfoot. I'm sorry to say, I love Bigfoot and all. Bobcat Goldthwait, if you're listening to me, I'm sorry. But at the same time, the Yeti just seemed a lot more powerful from all the folklore and all the cryptid study I kind of did on him a little bit too. Like, people always talk about, but what about the Thunderbird? I'm like, I don't give a fuck. The Yeti tosses people off mountains and shit.
Yeah. No, the Yeti definitely seems a lot scarier. Bigfoot always struck me as like this benevolent being, and Yeti just seems like you do not want to run into that thing. It'll just punch your head off.
I picture Bigfoot like eating mushrooms in a forest somewhere, and you come out and help them, like Tenacious D, where they're flying with the Sasquatch. Like, I picture that as Bigfoot. Like, somebody that's just here, like, I'm just chilling, man, enjoying my nature. I mean, just don't shit where I live, bro. That's all he's asking from you. But like the Yeti's more like, are you on my fucking mountain right now? Like, he says certain dominance trying to throw you off that thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Bigfoot's like the wise mountain wizard man, and Yeti's just like this feral, gigantic, angry monkey that's going to rip your face off.
Who do you think would win out of like a fight between all the cryptids that you've done research on? Do you think Bigfoot will come out on top?
I think the Yeti probably would. The Yeti, Abominable Snowman, they're bigger, they're stronger. Unless you throw in like a Mongolian death worm.
What the fuck is a Mongolian death worm?
Oh, it's like a desert worm that they say like just touching it immediately kills you. Like some people think it's got poison on its skin that'll drop you dead, or there's other theories that because it travels through the sand, it builds up a lot of static electricity, and that if you touch it, it'll just zap you dead.
Are we talking about like the worm from SpongeBob, but in like a Mongolian version, I guess?
I like to think of it more like a worm from Dune, but just not quite as large.
That movie's scary as shit, though. If you saw it when you were like my age when it came out, like I was watching that thing, I was like, all right, I'm afraid there's this thing that just the new one with The Rock, that one. Where the dude got freaking scratched, and he was part wheelchair, or half of him was a wheelchair, and he was like this monster beast of a wheelchair. I was like, oh my God. I look at like audio dramas too. Like, was this the initial inspiration for it, or did you have like another idea down the road? Like, let's do a Walking Dead type one, because like you're mentioning each season's going to be different. That's very difficult to do with like if you're doing a zombie audiobook or something, because like as we noticed with The Walking Dead, by the time it hit like season 5, people were fading out because you realize it's the same shit, just adding something different in an episode. But with a crypto or cryptid podcast or an audiobook this way, is the same thing you could do with like a video game, because you can go fucking anywhere with it. You can be like Bigfoot plays air guitar and becomes a famous rock musician, then gets an inflated ego, then all of his friends have to talk him down off doing heroin for an hour. It's like, oh,
yes, yeah, exactly. Or like, they go to explore religion and one of them becomes a cult leader,
Even better.
Yes. Yeah. No, yeah, you can take it in all sorts of directions. Yeah. But yeah, like there was no like other idea before this. This is Brandon, my co-writer, and I, we've been friends since we were little kids. And we came up with this idea in like high school, like 20 years ago. And well, actually, I guess it was a little bit less than 20 years ago, probably more like 15 years ago. But, we've worked on a bunch of stuff since, but this one's always just been our little baby. It's been our favorite. It's gone through a lot of iterations. But this has always been the story we love to tell, Definitely didn't evolve from anything else.
Now, when it comes to how hard is it for you to create content? Like, do you guys just randomly just start throwing a bunch of stuff together, like in a storyboard room, or are you guys just chilling in like, on the couch or something? Like, hey, do you think this would be a good idea? Do you think this would be a good idea? Are you guys marinating it over for a while? Because I think with like when I was working at Walmart for a while, just having headphones in and also stocking shelves, you're doing whatever. I had a lot of time to think about a lot of things I wanted to get done, which I feel like it's like that with any job, really. If you're just chilling, it's just like, hey, what's this new idea popping in my head here?
Yeah. Well, it varies on different parts of the process. Like we got a ton of ideas. We have like 10 seasons worth of the show planned. And like the springboard's written for it and everything. But it's it can be difficult like producing it. Like the first season came out like 2 years ago, I think. And just because we have to wrangle an entire cast, some of whom are very busy. Like Henry, I don't know. Have you ever listened to the last podcast on the left?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, it's like the #1 podcast on Spotify right now. And like, they've got a book out.
Joe Rogan's coming for him, though.
Oh, yeah, he definitely is. Yeah, they're about to be #2.
I saw that pop up on my notification. I've come across a lot of their, like recommended listening to me. But I just, I usually listen to stuff that's like either like favorite comedians or something of mine. That like, I like the real life story, which kind of correlates to a little bit of like how mine is. I like hearing people's thoughts and where they've kind of, it's like looking through somebody else's eyes. Like if I want to listen to audiobooks are fun too, like the Dungeons and Dragons ones, or like a Fallout one that my one buddy Kevin was in. But like
Oh, nice.
they're fun to listen to because like it represents a whole nother side of things too. But like a lot of podcasts, like stuff that's like very music-y or very like I don't know how people get away with the radio ones where it's like, we're gonna play up one of Little Dicky's famous hits, and then they start playing like a full-on Little Dicky song. I'm like, how do you have the rights to do that?
They probably don't. They're just like, well, if they claim it, we'll take it down.
Nobody said anything yet.
Yeah. No, but like, yeah, it can be difficult producing just because, we have like 10 actors working on it, and all these 10 actors, they're working on other projects. Right now, there's no money in the damn thing, so no one's getting paid. So it's just, everyone's just doing it for fun. So we have to kind of work when people can do it. And, and Henry especially is constantly busy. So, you got to catch your actors on the right day, get them to sit down, record the lines for you, and then all the editing and stuff. We started putting out little like kind of intermittent episodes. We just did an episode like of kind of a PSA on how to stay clean in quarantine, and how to prevent yourself from getting the virus. And then we did a Christmas special where they all kind of read and critique the classic story "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." But as far as coming up with the ideas and writing, that happens so naturally between me and Brandon because we've been doing it so long together. But yeah, everything else it can be difficult. There's a lot of pitfalls along the way. Sometimes you lose audio, your computer crashes, you lose a day's work. Yeah.
How often do you release an episode?
It's definitely, there's a lot of time in between. I'm working real hard to figure out a regular rollout schedule for episodes and stuff, like how we can like just be constantly producing and constantly, putting out content. Because we took a pretty big break after the first season because we were pitching the show. We were trying to sell it to networks. And another part of the reason we did the first season was to kind of take it to, the Cartoon Network people and be like, hey, all right, here's the show without any visual.
Hold on, is it family friendly?
Well, Adult Swim, it can be worked out of a way. We prefer it not to be family friendly.
I don't see fucking Toonami playing some unfriendly family stuff. Like, hold on a second. We just played 2 hours of Courage the Cowardly Dog, and you want to throw in what now?
Yeah, but yeah, we wanted to showcase the writing and like give them, it's like, all right, here's the characters, like here's the thing that we created. This is like what you could have on your lineup, and that was a big reason we did it. And we've been pitching for like the last like year and a half, like just running around to all these different companies. We pitched with Legendary Digital. We pitched with Frederator. They're the guys that did Fairly Odd Parents and
Jeff Hartman.
Yeah, Castlevania. Yes, yeah. And actually, we pitched to Amazon Prime too, and that was an interesting pitch meeting.
How did that go? You think Amazon Prime would probably pick that up? I mean, Amazon seems like they're buying into everything. It's like at one point, like it was just like Netflix doing comedy specials, and all of a sudden people were getting Amazon Prime for comedy specials. So it was like, hang on a second, Amazon, are you just trying to dominate the market here? Are we coming into maybe a corporate Hitler?
Dude, yeah, it's like we were hoping they'd pick us up because it's like y'all got more money than God. But they have to be very particular about it, and like I think it scares a lot of these networks that we haven't like helmed any other shows before. We're kind of outsiders.
Well,
as far as that goes,
it's a safe option, is what they're thinking of. Like that's why I'm
exactly.
People took more chances in the corporate business. Isn't that how shit gets started? Is people just taking shots? Like I'm going to sell all my furniture, sell all my belongings, and just start a business. Like that
Yeah.
was back in the day. But then like, if I looked at it, if I owned a multi-million-dollar company, I would invest in so many just small businesses in general that might not have a chance of making it. But who would know if I didn't give them a shot? I mean, that's what I basically do with this podcast. I'm talking to people from all over that maybe are trying to start a business. And it's like, fuck it. Let's give you an opportunity. Let's give you a shot. I'm not Shark Tank or anything. I'm nobody important, but I'm getting if you want to say something out there to somebody, it gets your name out there at least to maybe a few people that want to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. It's good what you're doing. I like that. I like that a lot.
Wish we could smoke crack on air though. 1,000 times better. You know how many ideas we would have if we were smoking crack?
We'd rule the world.
Do you try and do your episodes maybe on a specific timing? Like, do you just have them record you and send it to you? Or do you guys like, I mean, it's got to be better if you're all in the room together doing lines together.
Yes, absolutely. You know, for the first season, everyone kind of recorded individually, but for the Christmas special that we did, we all recorded our lines together. We didn't do it like ensemble style where you know, everyone did their lines one after another, but we recorded like Ed recorded first, and then I recorded all my lines, and then Brandon recorded all of his lines, and it just came together so much better. We had so much fun in the studio, and we're hoping in the future to be able to do a live read of a script. Like, you know, we'll rent out a theater and have the whole cast there, and we'll just be sitting at a table. Someone will run Foley, you know, all the sound effects, like smack a shoe on a piece of wood for walking and stuff. And
have you seen those videos? Have you seen, I don't mean to cut you off, but have you seen those videos of people that do the sound effects for like movies and stuff?
Oh yeah. It's wild.
That shit's insane. The type, like the dude I watched had like a couple rocks and he was using them for hoof beats and he was just banging them on the ground. And he was like, you have to think of what's the size of the horse, the different pace, the amount you have to use in force to be able to make that sound. I'm like, wow. And then like they had one that was like a horse eating a carrot. So the dude took 2 pieces of celery and was shoving them in his mouth and gnawing on it. I was like, yo, this stuff goes insane.
Yeah. No, that is an art form. It really is an art form.
How much of your show is like all of it? Like, do you use any template sound effects or anything for it?
That's the majority of it. If I try to use as much stock sound effects as possible, and if I have to, I'll record like a sound of something. But I kind of want to explore that more. But it's just as far as convenience goes, it's mostly stock sound effects.
And what do you plan? Are you still trying to pitch this idea to like a giant network or something? I feel like this is like a good idea for a show, especially with it. If we're looking at now on television, the censorship might be maybe an all-time high when it comes to YouTube and stuff. But I'm looking at like, as long as you guys didn't have any sex stuff involved, it seems like it'd be pretty easy because we're perfectly fine with cursing as a public. I mean, I could run into an 8-year-old on Xbox and telling me to go fuck myself.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's like we're never going to stop pitching the show until we've gone through every single studio and they all tell us not to come back. Like we're gonna keep trying to get it made. Like absolutely.
Nice. I'm looking at like already thinking of like what could we do with the Yeti if we can involve the Yeti into this.
Well, we actually we have like a season where the Bigfoot, he sees like the Yeti on TV. And he like, it's love at first sight, you know. It's because like the Yeti character is like a woman, and so he sees her on TV, and he's like, oh my god, she's beautiful.
That's a steroid woman. That's a steroid woman if I've ever seen one.
Hey, you know, it's like that's a Bigfoot likes.
I would think of like if we incorporated, like if you would picture any of the cryptids in a job, what would you say each cryptid would go for? Like I always picture the Yeti maybe being a ice cream man or something, you know, like owning his own ice cream truck and driving around trying to give kids ice cream. Just seems like that type of guy, but wouldn't touch him, wouldn't do any molestation issues or Bill Cosby things. He would just be really nice about it.
Yeah. I could see, I mean, Mothman would be an author. He would write. You know, because he's like our smart character. He's very like well read and well spoken. I think Loch Ness Monster. I feel like he'd be like the CEO of a company or something,
Or scuba instructor.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Bigfoot's obviously a park ranger.
Yes, yeah. That definitely park ranger.
How hard was it for you to think of like just even narrowing that voice down? Like you could have easily did a British accent for one of these characters.
Mothman actually does have a British accent.
I figured you mentioned he was an author. I was like, you had to give him something intelligent. And for a lot of us Americans, as soon as we think intelligent, it happens to do with a British accent.
Yes. He's very scholarly.
I made a video a long time ago for my senior year. It was supposed to be like a documentary. So I did a nature documentary, and it was like just analyzing people throughout my school, like the types of kids. And I just did a British voice like, here we have young Stephen. Stephen spends a lot of his time reading fucking Harry Potter books. And I would just do that. And I was like, it immediately you're already hooked into the biography, or you're hooked into the documentary. Like you're trying to sit there and do like a regular voice. Like it's the same thing with radio too. Like when you listen to radio, it's got to be entertaining for people. But what I find to be entertaining is when you're more real, when you're more personal. Like you hear a podcast where the guy's talking for like a quick couple moments and he's like, you're listening to Jack FM Media on the 2020 what? And then it's like, all right, how long can you fucking keep that up in a radio talk show for 2 hours?
Yeah. And it's like, and I know for damn sure you don't talk like that outside of the studio.
Yeah, I mean, my parents work radio, and I'll be sitting there like listening to them on the radio or something. I'm like, that's not what they fucking sound like. Like,
Yeah.
I'll be at the dinner table. They'll be like, "Hey, you want some mashed potatoes?" I'm like, "Where's that radio voice? Would you like some mashed potatoes with that side of Green Day?"
Yeah. Say, Robbie, would you pass the peas?
I'm like, after a while, it's like but I have met some radio people that is their. Like they went into the persona, then you go a little too deep, and the next thing you know, you're stuck doing that one forever.
Like, then you never get out.
Let me get a double cheeseburger with a side of mustard fries. And you're like, what the fuck happened to your head?
Yeah, see, that's the thing is like when you're entertaining and stuff, I don't think you can. I mean, I guess like for some mediums, it's important to take it seriously, but like we don't take ourselves seriously at all. And I think that's why it's so much fun for us.
I think that's part of the reason why it's a good thing you haven't got picked up as a TV show too, because if you look at anybody that's ever pitched a TV show idea, after like a season, it's like we ended up stop wanting to work with them because of the fact is they were just putting in too much control. It's like if I sold your podcast to a radio network or something, they will immediately start telling you what you can and can't say. And then eventually you're just like, well, what the fuck? Like, I want to be Bigfoot, and I also want to have Bigfoot shoot a porn. I can't have that in my episode because you're telling me it's not good for the kids.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, that's definitely something we think about because, like, there's a lot of like podcasts. They're on like podcast networks and stuff, and I think as far as like the podcast version of the show goes, I think we're gonna just stay indie forever. Like we're always gonna be. It's always just gonna be us. I don't want anyone to tell me what to do with my ideas. I like the freedom of being able to be like, you know what, if I want Bigfoot to get brainwashed and become like, some like far right guy for like an episode, and then they have to like put him through a Clockwork Orange thing to like de-brainwash him, it's like that's I want to be able to do that. I want to have the freedom to just do whatever the fuck I want with it.
Yeah, and you just can't be in the middle of an episode like you're dealing with like the main storyline. The next all you hear is, welcome to Squarespace, where you can get all your website building needs. It's like, hold on a second, what just happened?
Yeah.
I always look at like there's some podcasts out there. I'm like, I'm more than happy to have a sponsor, obviously. Like, here's one of my sponsors here, Two Angry Cats. Shout out to Josh Williams. But like, I mean, it's cool to drop something like that if you know the people. But if it's a giant corporation and it's something like huge and over dramatic or something, and they want you to take time to read an ad for them, it's like, let me do it the way I want to do it though. Like when you talk about Manscapes, let me tell you about how it feels so good when you shave down there. Like, let me emphasize what your product product is, but let me do it in your own creative passion. Like, I'd be more than happy to do it like that. But like, as we see with television, I mean, I think we're so used to it now, but I remember when ads were going insane at one point. Like when I was a kid, I was like, I can't even watch my fucking show. Now we're just so used to it. It's like, we're going to see 5 minutes of The Walking Dead, and then you're going to see some commercials for about 10, 15 minutes, and then we're going to have to wait another 5 minutes. It's like, I already waited a fucking week for the episode to drop. You're going to tell me I have to wait even longer to get a fucking 15-minute show?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could see us doing some advertising, like if we could just do it like with the characters, you know, and like stuff like that. I don't like when I'm listening to a show and it's just like, and now here, let us cut completely away from the tone of the show while we tell you about a fucking toothbrush, you know?
Quip.
It's like, I love this toothbrush that I've probably never used, but I'm going to tell you that I did because I think you're a fucking idiot.
Let me tell you about this special offer. You can buy 5 quips for the price of $3.99 if you call this number here. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's like, or buy this bed and we'll fucking mail it to you.
Do you like it? What's it?
That bed can't be comfortable.
That's fucking Satva too, is what you're talking about. The bed company. That's funny. I always laugh at those old time commercials you used to see on TV where it was like, you can get this Burt Bacharach record for 50 songs on 50 separate CDs, like the ones you would see at 2:00 in the morning where you're too lazy to find the remote. I was like, those were the best, man. You're sitting there like, I want to change the channel, but I'm way too tired. So you're just sitting there watching Bobby Brown serenade you with 50 songs on 50 CDs.
I gotta say though, I did have like one of the it was like an 8 CD collection of like oldies music that my parents bought from like one of those commercials, and that was actually, there was some bangers on those CDs. That was actually good. There was one infomercial product that I very much appreciated.
Days before Old Town Road.
Yeah.
All we can do is look back and just either regret or just miss those days.
Yeah.
Now, I appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, Andrew. It's pretty good talking to you, especially about the crypto podcast, which I am recommending everybody check out. I want you to kind of share your links here too. Let everybody know where they can find you. I'm guessing all platforms.
Yeah. You can follow Crypta at Crypta Series on Instagram, Twitter. We're on Facebook too. CRYPTA, and a series like for all the ats. My Instagram is at Fritz Bone Lord. I think my Twitter is at ACParker320. And obviously you can find Crypta on, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts.
And if you were going to take us out of this episode, how would you do it?
How do you mean?
How would you end this podcast?
I'm
giving you the reins, okay? I'm Santa Claus tossing over the reins to you to fly my reindeer home through the night. How are you going to end this? You can end it like you do with your podcast.
I'll end it just saying this. If you don't go and listen to the podcast, I can't promise that you won't be attacked by skeletons in the night.
Wow, that's a murder threat at the end. I like it.
No, it's not a threat. It's a promise.
Oh, shit.